Is anything cooler than role-playing games? Don't answer that. I really like role-playing games. I don't need the real answer. And it's a new year, and I'm very excited for what's coming. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, here's the top 10 RPGs coming in 2017. Number 10 is Vampyr, which comes to us from the creators of Life is Strange, which is interesting because the shift in tone between Life is Strange and what we've seen of Vampyr is, well, pardon the vampire pun, night and day. The game uses an action RPG style for its combat, and believe it or not, actually looks like another Square Enix property, the Final Fantasy 15 battle system, with all the warping and whatnot. I actually see on display a bit here if you combined it maybe a little bit with a sort of Bloodborne-ish look. Obviously, the attacks aren't as fast and furious as Final Fantasy 15. They look a little bit more labored, a little bit more strategic, but you have that cool warping. Another cool part of it is quote-unquote improvised melee weapons, which is something you really haven't seen a whole lot of outside of arcade beat-em-ups, which is very interesting. The idea that basically any item that could be used as a weapon is a weapon, I really enjoy the sound of. The game takes place during the 1918 London Spanish flu pandemic, and the story is going to explore the dualism of the nature of the protagonist's life as a vampire who lives in the human world as a doctor. It's got a great aesthetic, great graphics with the new Unreal Engine, and the plot seems super interesting. Number 9 is Ninokuni 2 Revenant Kingdom, which I don't know if you played the original Ninokuni, but it was a Studio Ghibli-inspired anime video game that really brought a lot of the best that you expect from a JRPG together into one thing. On top of that, it had a whimsical story and graphics that looked a lot like a cartoon. Ninokuni 2 looks to be sort of continuing what they tried to do, and maybe actually succeeding even more than the original. I really liked the original, but the battles became a little bit tedious eventually. It's a good battle system, but not a great one. That seems to be the thing they're trying to address the most here, in that they've made it so that the characters, rather than various monsters, are who you actually control. It's not as though I didn't like the sort of Pokemon-ish aspects to it, but for the type of game it was, considering there was a lot of tedium anyway in grinding, we're getting to an area that I think is probably going to be better. The graphics are vastly improved, looking a lot like an actual animated film. It's really gorgeous. The scenery is amazing. It looks hand-painted, not hand-drawn, hand-painted, and I can't wait to play this one. Number 8, Divinity Original Sin 2 brings a turn-based RPG experience that builds on the original Divinity Original Sin, which is quite a sentence by the way, in a manner that makes it very cool. For one, the drop-in, drop-out multiplayer is really fun, and who'd have thought that a turn-based co-op could be this enjoyable? It is though, and on top of that, it's gorgeous. This is a gorgeous game, and all we've played is the early access version, knowing that the full game is going to be coming out for PC and consoles with all of the episodes, not just the first act, is pretty exciting. The skill crafting system that they have in this game is a great idea. I know we've seen some of that before, but the version that we see in Divinity Original Sin 2, I'm really excited for, and I'm really excited for getting further in the story. The first act gives a ton of gameplay. It's easily 20 to 30 hours, and everything that I've played of it has left me really encouraged for the full version of it. Number 7 is Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a first-person open-world classless role-playing game that takes place in the Czech Republic in 1403. The world that's going on basically has a succession problem. There's a war going on over who's going to take over now that a king has died, and you play as a blacksmith, well, son of a blacksmith, so you would have been a blacksmith if the events in Kingdom Come Deliverance weren't to come into play, with a lot of interesting systems such as open-ended quests, daily routines for all the NPCs, a detailed physics system to make battle into a much more detail-oriented endeavor, and it uses the CryEngine 3, which is very interesting because it's a good engine. In fact, pretty much all the engines right now are really good. All the newer engines, it's like, yes, this is amazing. I'm excited for this game because it's kind of a different approach. Number 6, Nioh, which is a Dark Souls-inspired samurai game. The battle system essentially is meant to be the sort of strategic hack and slash that is present in Dark Souls, but you also end up seeing a lot of influences from the Onimusha series, as well as obviously stuff from Ninja Gaiden, because Team Ninja, the developers of the game, obviously made Ninja Gaiden, and hopefully the best elements of that are retained as opposed to maybe the worst. This game has been developed for a very long time and started in 2004 as an unfinished script by Akira Kurosawa. This game has been everything from a traditional JRPG to a Dynasty Warriors style game to now a full-blown action RPG along the lines of what is mainstream in those genres currently, namely Dark Souls, but intends to take the Dark Souls style of tough, strategic gameplay and simplify it just a bit by incorporating elements of Ninja Gaiden into the combat. I'm really interested in it. Personally, Team Ninja, I really like, even though they kind of fucked some things up, but Ninja Gaiden is really fun in its own way. 3 was so-so, but still. Number 5, South Park The Fractured Butthole. That's a ridiculous name. The Fractured Butthole continues building where the last South Park game left off, a sort of Final Fantasy style battle system that has been expanded with location-based things, one could say similar to the Final Fantasy Tactics style of play, still maintaining elements from the original battle system. In this version of the game, the characters are role-playing as superheroes as opposed to fantasy characters, and it looks a lot like it's probably going to be satirizing the Marvel versus DC argument. At least that's my observation on it. I'm very interested. I loved the first game. I've played it several times, and I'm a big fan of South Park, so I'm ready. Let's see this thing. I will say I appreciate that they delay games based on the quality of it to ensure that it ships as a decent product. Ubisoft, maybe you should think about doing that a little bit more than just with the South Park game that the people who make South Park get all freaked out about. Look, people hate uncompleted games. Start completing them, please. Number 4 is Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a post-apocalyptic game where you're sort of a hunter. It looks a lot like it might not be futuristic until you see what you're hunting. It's big robot animals, and it looks like the machines won, so to speak, during the course of the apocalypse. And it's a game that I personally got very excited when I first saw it, when they announced it and showed all the footage from the sort of early version of the game, and in a lot of ways sort of subverts a lot of the tropes that we've seen in a lot of video games, sort of giving us a situation that is lush and colorful and beautiful, but because humanity lost. The machines won, and yet the world is pretty. It's interesting to see, to say the very least. I'm excited to see exactly how that fits into the story, and I have to say I'm more excited about this than anything that they've done with Killzone. Despite the fact Killzone is a very quality franchise, it just looks like they finally found like a super original thing to be passionate about, and I'm very excited. Number 3 is Nier Automata, which is a sequel to an interesting game that mixed a lot of different gameplay styles into an RPG-type game, and itself was a spin-off of the Dragon Guard series taking place 1,000 years afterwards. Nier Automata takes place after the 4th ending of the original Nier, but being the game is being developed in conjunction with Platinum Games, it's probably going to be a little bit more action-oriented than the first Nier. At least that's the intention, to create something that is much more high quality and smooth like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising or Vengeance, while obviously retaining the idea to make a very hybrid genre of game with RPG as the base. The original Nier is a great game. It's one of those weird titles that it's difficult to describe because it's so many different things in one, but it pulls it off, and I fully expect this one to do the same, as well as be more streamlined and fun because Platinum Games is fantastic. Number 2 is Mass Effect Andromeda, which got a couple of strange bits of feedback from its little showing, but as far as I'm concerned, still looks like one of the bigger things that's going to happen this year. For one, the environments look very interesting, but what I'm interested in more so is obviously the characters. Any BioWare story is always presented to you with lots of choice, but also lots of personality. It's one of the few games that isn't fully linear, in my opinion, that gives you everything that a linear game gives you. The reason why I still like like linear games is because they're the ones that tend to have personality. But BioWare bucks that trend, and I'll always say, only a few have really figured out how to do the personality part besides BioWare, even Bethesda having some problem with that in my opinion. But between Dragon Age and the original Mass Effect trilogy, I don't really have any worries about the story. Hopefully the gameplay elements continue to improve as well, but we really haven't seen anything of that yet. Even in the little thing that they showed off, it looked very reminiscent of the original game, but there was no reason to expect that it was going to be anything but that. Needless to say, I'm very interested and excited for Mass Effect Andromeda. And finally, number 1 is a game that has been a very long time coming, Persona 5. Let's just go ahead and say this, it's been way too long since Persona 4. I'd even say Persona doesn't even feel like it's in the same era of video games to me, and the fact that there's another one coming out almost seems weird. But at the same time, I'm really excited for it because I'm a huge fan of Persona 4, and really all the Persona games. Particularly 4 though, I'm a particular 4 fan. Those exist, just so you know. 5 looks to be taking a lot of the battle elements into a modern area while retaining some of the more interesting and fun elements that we've always had from Persona, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. Reviews out of the Japanese version are good, people very much liked it, and that makes me excited as well, but mostly these games are so full of personality and interesting ideas, despite them being totally absurdist, and I can tell you this right now, I'm going to spend a great deal of time playing this game. Couple of bonus games for you. First, Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, which is a prequel to the original and promises some big upgrades to inventory management and the AI, and the Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 remix, which is probably the best version of the games that it includes, and allows you to play Kingdom Hearts on a nice new next-gen console. And Torment, Tides of Numenera, the crowdfunded spiritual successor to Planetscape Torment, an isometric callback to the golden age of computer RPGs that promises some new advancements as well. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and meet me in the comments to talk about it. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do just that. A subscription gets you brand new gameranx videos every single day of the week. We thank you very much for watching this specific video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.